Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we'll be meeting with Tamara Owens, who is a connection of mine through Twitter. We had a little bit of time to get to know each other. We're both instructional design nerds, so I'm really excited to talk to her a little bit more with you listening in. So with that, Tamara, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an instructional designer at the University of Tampa, and I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you.
Absolutely. So when we think instructional design, we think lots of different types of instructional design. So it sounds like you're more on the academic side of instructional design. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
Yes and no. I actually do work at the university, and so naturally academia, but I worked in the library, and I never planned to be an instructional designer. I simply started doing the work. I think they call us accidental instructional designers. So I was always designing for my coworkers and also for the students that work for us. So in that sense, no, I'm not like teaching in a classroom environment. I'm teaching a group of students that changes every semester. But yes, there's that academic influence, but at the same time, I would say, no, doing it as you would do for any company, any organization.
Sure, absolutely. And when you say you kind of are an instructional designer by accident, University of Tampa, is it the first place that you've done instructional design, or kind of what's your background there? How long have you been in the industry?
Well, I've been training people since I was a teenager. I taught people how to read. I love to teach the little kids and to see that moment of light in their eyes. So I've always been teaching the people around me. And over the years, I had different positions. I worked in the hospitality industry for 5 years and became front office manager at a hotel. So again, I was training my staff, on how to be excellent customer service representatives. I worked in insurance for 5 years when I'd had enough of the hotels. You kind of burn out on those. And again, found myself training my coworkers, and then, I had other employees to teach. So it's just something I've always done, but I didn't have the theories behind it. I didn't know really the best methods or techniques. I just basically went on what felt right. So once I learned there was an actual profession for instructional design, I had to have the courses. I had to get the degree. And, of course, my work became much better, more focused. Infographics, books, and designs, manuals, all those things started to happen, as well as the videos. That didn't happen until after I got my master's. And I feel like I'm better, but at the same time, I feel like I've been training my entire life.
Sure, no, that's mostly, well, no, I would say that's completely true of most instructional designers. We all kind of fall into this field by accident. I didn't, like you, did not even know that instructional design was even a real job. Like you said, you would work in companies and they'd say, oh, bring in, or, in your case, Tamara, could you train this person? And then you're like, oh, wait, there's a whole department that does this? I just thought that everyone just learned by shadowing somebody else. And for me, and for me, I got into instructional design just like you, completely by accident. I was working in a job, managing their volunteer system, which is kind of like a volunteer recruitment system. And I happened to work in a cubicle with someone that was very, very, very beginning of the field, e-learning. And he said, hey, you look like you might be interested in this. Why not give it a try? And I started out just converting PowerPoint to, what then was very basic, e-learning. So it's just kind of funny, like we just kind of accidentally fall in this. Yeah. So when you think of instructional design, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's absolutely true. You've in this sense, we sort of find the need before we actually find the solution.
Yeah, totally. So when you think of instructional design, what are some things that really speak to you? Like, what was it that first got you interested in kind of, making a long-term career out of doing this?
I like to teach, but I never wanted to be the person standing in front of a room teaching the classroom full of people. I knew from experience that 90% of your people are bored. They don't want to be there. They're there because they have to be. And I knew there were better ways to get their attention. There are better ways to get my attention. And, the more I've explored it, the more I'm like, wow, this is actually, like you said, it's a thing where you can get better and learn how people learn and how to tackle, whatever the gap is or the thing that they need. And, you're just better able to focus on it and meet those needs. And to me, that's like, wow, I'm getting to get that aha moment in my learners more effectively, more easily. And it's still, it's always, what do they call it, an iterative process. We're always working on it and trying to be better. And whether it's gamification or microlearning, these are all the things that excite me because the potential to change people's lives is really there.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, even to change people's lives, but also to change the culture of companies. You touch one person's life, or you create one environment where learning is okay, and it's a game changer.
Absolutely. And I enjoy that. It's sort of a rush to know. So I get excited about learning things, and I realize not everybody is equally excited. But if I can create that excitement in them, I truly have succeeded at what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, you talked a little bit at the beginning about how you've done some manuals, and you've done infographics and, all kinds of different types of training materials. What's something that has stood out to you as something that, you've really enjoyed working on?
Well, I think my favorite is video learning. I just feel like it's so effective. It's portable. Everybody has a smartphone. And if you're going with the microlearning aspect of a minute or two, that's perfect. People they do have a long attention span when they want to. But if it's things they're not particularly excited about, it's very short. And you can maybe tease them or, drop this one little thing and they go, wow, I want to learn more. And that's huge. But my own personal interests really lie in like open educational resources, in Creative Commons licensing, where we have the ability to share things that we've created or build on things that other people have created. And again, this is a personal interest of mine, a passion really. So I tend to bring that in when I can into a lesson and make people aware. I think the biggest problem a lot of times, with our educational gaps, our employee gaps, again, I use gaps, I'm sorry, but it's really what it is. When something's missing and it needs to be filled, there are so many resources out there, and some of them don't cost anything, which is, again, why I go back to open educational resources. It's like open source software or the public domain. These things are out there, and it's a resource, and it helps us build the tools that we need or, our solutions. And to me, that's just exciting that it's out there and I can teach people about it at the same time as I'm using them. But, again, personal passion. Not everybody is as excited about it as I am.
Well, I think that you bring up a good point because open source, the open source resources, Creative Commons, they really provide something, especially for people who work for companies or in academia or, any area where they don't have a big budget to do tons of development or to have, all the fancy technology or, all the photo libraries or, whatever. And I think that, of course, there's the whole, why should I recreate this if it already exists, the reinventing the wheel. But then there's also the opportunity for, people who just don't have as much opportunity because of where they work, because there isn't a huge budget or, whatever, to be able to use some of that stuff and, still really produce some great stuff without having to, convince some VP to spend, tons of extra money or whatever. So I think that while, you said it's a personal passion, I think it's a passion of many people and a passion that truthfully a lot of people don't know about, like one of the first companies I ever worked for doing instructional design full time, we didn't have any of those resources. And it was, when I first started doing it, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I can't find anything, and they don't have any budget for like, to help me make this any better. And it was like stumbling upon that open source stuff that really helped me a lot. So I think that it's an untapped resource for a lot of people.
It's true. And so many people, like you said, they're just not aware that it exists. And, money, especially struggling college students, as a graduate student, I barely had money for ramen, much less to pay for graphics or videos, music, and I can't do everything on my own. I'm not a composer, but because there are these amazing, generous people who share their talents freely, and, you just respect the licensing, and that, that's not very difficult, but I won't go into that right now, but there are like 6 licenses with Creative Commons. And say I created an image. I can put it out there and tell users how they can use it. Can they change it? Can they use it commercially? I might say absolutely not, but that they can use the image as long as they give me credit. It's all I might be asking for. So I do believe it stimulates creativity and budgets, and it can cost quite a bit of money just to add music. A lot of people, and I include companies in this, feel like you can go to Google, do a search, and then you see all these amazing things and just take them and use them themselves, and you can't. That's absolutely against the law unless you make sure you're using public domain, Creative Commons licensing, and there are other licenses out there. Creative Commons is the most commonly known, but there are others. And there's a beautiful website called unsplash.com, and I love them. They have high-resolution photos that anybody, anywhere can use. Companies, colleges, students, it doesn't matter. And you can do anything you want with these pictures. So, to me, that's just fantastic. And if you have no money to create, you can still create. You don't have to, invest all of your life savings because you want to put together a short video, and it could cost quite a bit just for the music.
No, yeah, you're totally right. So as we get to the end of our time, I want to say that this is the perfect segue for anyone who is listening. So we have invited Tamara to come back and do a mini session on Creative Commons and open education resources, just to help, bring light to this untapped resource for so many people. So with that, stay tuned for a date for that session so you can tune back in and listen. And also I'd like to just thank you, Tamara, for, being passionate about this topic, but also for, spending some time with me today, and then, again, spending time when you do your mini session, just sharing that knowledge with us. So thank you very much for today and everything.
Thank you so much for having me, Brianne, and for letting me share my passion with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, everyone, stay tuned for that date. We will post it very shortly so you can tune back in.